Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Basketball Show. I'm George Michaelowski with PSN today with a very special guest, Jon Chepkevich. Jon, I hope I said your name correctly. Welcome on. Thanks for joining me today.
What's going on, man? Appreciate you having me.
So, Jon, we'll get right to it. You were at the CP3 Elite Camp. A lot of Pitt fans have been reading about this, seen it on Twitter all week. Jaland Lowe, Pitt's point guard for this year, sophomore, was in attendance. You saw him perform throughout the camp. You put up a video of some of his highlights from the camp. I saw it had almost 400,000 views today. So clearly, Jaland was doing something right. What did you see, and what were your initial thoughts on his game?
I being from Pittsburgh originally, like I follow Pitt basketball, not a fan myself, but plenty of people in my life are. And it was interesting to kind of see the dynamic of Lowe and Bub Carrington both kind of emerging as freshmen this year, and Bub kind of took the reins as the one and done NBA prospect, but Lowe got better and better throughout the year, and I thought really emerged throughout conference play, and was a really reliable guy. And it was good to see him in this camp setting, sort of building upon that and showing that there might be some more untapped potential heading into his sophomore year, where he has, maybe even more of a foothold on the backcourt and running the show. He seemed really confident, was really slithery with his ball handle, was getting everywhere that he wanted to get on the court, hitting pull-ups over, seasoned pros that they were scrimmaging against. Just had a good way about him and good confidence with the ball in his hands.
So that kind of brings me to the next question that I've been wondering about. What do they do at this camp? You mentioned scrimmaging pros, but what are the drills they do? How much time is spent scrimmaging? Who are they playing against?
Yeah, so he was with the CP3 guard group. So there were about 30 total players in that group. Half of them were current college players and half were high school players. They would kind of keep those groups segregated during the course of the camp for the most part. But there's a lot of station and drill work where it's different scenarios where there are constraints put in place. Like it might be, catch out on the wing, you're in isolation one-on-one, have 3 to 4 dribbles max, and there's a help side guy looming under the rim, and you have to try to score, right? So he was doing pretty well in these types of drills and whatnot, and shooting it pretty well and everything. But I thought it was during the live action scrimmages where he excelled the most, and was just one of the more, I think, pleasant surprises at the camp.
So your tweet, I believe, said that he caught some eyes or he turned some heads
Yeah.
with his performance there. Isaiah Thomas quote tweeted it, and clearly his head was turned. Who did you talk to about Lowe, if anyone, and who was in attendance that maybe got eyes on him? Were there NBA scouts in attendance?
Yeah, there were NBA scouts from just about every team sitting there courtside in attendance, watching on. And I think some of these guys were more well-established entities, like projected first-round picks, projected one-and-done type guys, but they're always looking for a guy that's a little bit more under the radar to kind of emerge out of these things and show some signs of maybe what's to come for the following season. And I thought Lowe, definitely showed well in front of these scouts, and this was a good platform for him to, show that he might be underrated as a potential NBA prospect.
So he looked in that video. I mean, we haven't seen him since the end of this past season. He looked stronger
Yeah.
than he was during last season for sure. Uh, do you think his strength or his size is going to be the knock on him going into the draft if he leaves Pitt, or anything about his game? What do you think is going to be the thing that people try to tear him down with, I guess, going into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what he was listed at 170 or something
Yeah,
like that
6'3",
last
170
year.
last
He
year.
he
Yeah.
definitely looks bigger than that now. Like I agree with you. It looks like he added some muscle to his frame. Like he has really good shoulders. His upper body looks like it's filling out a little bit. So I'd imagine he's got to be weighing closer to like 185 or something by now would be my guess, which is definitely good to see. I think that's encouraging for his overall profile. As far as potential knocks on him, I think just really overall scoring efficiency. He was like a touch over 40% from two, and like mid 30s from three on, not crazy volume. So what does that look like if the usage scales up a little bit? He's relied upon a little bit more for his scoring. Like, can he get that 2-point percentage up, above 50%? Can the 3-point number nudge up closer to 37, 38%? Like, I think those are the things that people will be looking for, to see if he can kind of move the efficiency up as the usage goes up, which isn't always the easiest thing to do.
So at this point in time, I know it's tough and it's probably a question you get all the time working around the draft. Do you see him as a clear cut? Like, all right, this guy's a good season. He's most likely going to leave in your eyes and go to the NBA.
I don't know if I'd go as far to say that it's that clear cut. I think that it was definitely encouraging what he showed here. And I think it, helps me to be able to see the vision for how that could take shape over the course of the year. And I think he's going to have maybe more eyeballs on him, just as, this was like a little preliminary indicator of this is a guy that we should be keeping an eye on as a potential sleeper for this year. But I wouldn't say that, a 2-day event made it completely evident that, yeah, he's like on the trajectory to be a 2025 NBA draft pick. Like, it feels like he'll definitely be working his way into the fringe, like maybe
Right.
get, mocked in the second round here and there. But, is he going to want to leave Pitt unless he has some sort of like guaranteed situation that he feels good about? My guess would be no. And it'll still be a little bit of an uphill climb, I think, to get to that level, as far as his perception as a prospect.
How does this upcoming draft class, I know it's early, but we've heard for a long time now that this recent draft class wasn't very strong in the eyes
Mhm.
of many. Uh, First, like initial thoughts on the 2025 draft class. Is it a good one or is it a bad one? Do you not know enough yet?
I mean, I think it's safe to say that it's a very good one. Um, especially from the top end talent, right? Like,
Right.
that was the main knock on the 2024 draft. It wasn't necessarily the middle or heart of the draft. That felt, relatively comparable to other years. It was the top being super flat and like no obvious stars, right? Whereas this draft, you have some total studs at the top, like Cooper Flag being the obvious one. We've heard about him forever. We saw
Oh, yeah.
yesterday what he did against the Team
Nuts.
USA and the practices and the scrimmages and whatnot. Like, he's amazing. But then, rounding out the rest of the lottery prospects, when you have guys like Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, Nolan Traore, who I just saw a month and a half ago, over at the ANGT finals in Berlin. Like, these are super talented guys. And then, Yegor Demine at BYU. Like, there's all these like really high end lottery guys this year that make it feel a lot stronger at the top than 2024. And it also looks to have that same depth as well. So I would say this is shaping up to be a pretty promising draft class.
Well, John, thanks so much for giving us a scoop on Jalen, for giving us a scoop on the draft. You guys can follow John on Twitter, look up his name. You'll find him pretty quickly. John does great work for Draft Express, so follow along. Thanks, John, for coming on again, and really appreciate you, filling us in here today.
Thanks, George. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, see you, John.